Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, and also to the august personalities of Swami Gautamananda and Swami, the Vice President and the General Secretary of Ramakrishna Mortal Mission, for giving me an opportunity to speak before you this evening on the relevance and the continued significance of the Chicago speech of Swami Vivekananda after 125 years. May I start by offering my respect to Justice Samadha, the dignitaries on and off the dais. I see Justice Swamiji Banerjee and various other revered monks of the Ramakrishna order, the devotees, friends, and respected members of this gathering. Before I say anything, you have been listening, along with me also, I was listening to various speeches on Swamiji. Now, if I am asked to encapsulate the spirit of Swamiji in one word, it's a very difficult task. But I would venture to say that Swamiji is a person about whom there is everything positive. There is no negative vibe in his life or in his thinking. Even in the darkest of clouds, he would find a sunshine. Speaking for myself, I may say that when I feel extremely despondent and mentally very tired and exhausted, if I pick up one of his volumes and go through the same, I do not know how time passes. But after half an hour or even less than that time, I feel a strange energy in my mind. And I started looking at the glass, that it is half full and not half empty. My entire perception changes. Such is the infectious influence of his spirit. And I am sure all of you present here have the same feeling. Now here, I have just planned my small address in a different way. I have not tried to tell before you what was said by Swamiji in that famous Parliament of Religion. Because many speakers before me have done that formidable task very admirably. I will try to explain in my very humble way the importance of that Parliament of Religion, the prevailing condition in these two countries at the time when that Parliament of Religion was held, the purposes of Swamiji for attending the religion, and then the impact which was created by his tremendous speech, and which is still continuing both in America and in his own country. And I shall conclude with the dream of Swamiji. So may I start. Before one speaks on Swamiji's speech, one must reflect on the importance of this Parliament of Religion. Chicago's Parliament was not a national but a global Parliament, held to celebrate 400th anniversary of discovery of America by Columbus. The purpose of convening this Parliament was to offer a common platform to discuss the relative merits of different religious faiths and to declare the superiority of Christianity. But the Parliament ended with a different note on the harmony of all religions and acceptance of all religions as equal. This was possible for the divine participation and the brilliant presentation by Swamiji on his views on religion. In his farewell address, Swamiji accepted this by saying, and I quote, Ashoka's counsel was a counsel of Buddhist faith. Akbar's, though more to the purpose, was only a parlor meeting. It was reserved to America to proclaim to all quarters of the globe that Lord is in each religion. I am advisedly using the expression that Swamiji's participation in the parliament was divine, as he attended and gave the highest number of lectures in the parliament without any invitation and credentials. That apart, but for providential intervention, he could not have overcome the stumbling obstacles that came in his way of his reaching Chicago, far less participating in the parliament. We all know the details of those incidents, and I am not going to repeat them in my speech. We must first appreciate the condition at the time in our country vis-à-vis the position in America. In the last decade of the 19th century, British colonial power was at its peak in India. Simultaneously, exploitation of the masses, both in the hands of our colonial masters and their collaborators, namely the native landlords and the moneyed classes, went on without much resistance from any quarter. The social life at that time in our country was riddled with class division, and in view of widespread illiteracy and superstition and sectarian approach, firmly gripped the mind of the common man. After the demise of his guru, Ramakrishna Dey, on 16th August 1886, in the Baranagar Mott, Swamiji with his brother disciples were spending days in chill penury and faced a grim struggle for survival. During this period, he realized the religion has to be preached by frontally combating the problems of the common man and not by running away from them. About 1891, he decided to go on a pilgrimage to see for himself the conditions of his fellow countrymen and traveled to various parts of the country and was appalled at the poverty, illiteracy, backwardness of the people. His heart bled at their misery, and at the same time he became very critical of the exploitative ways by which the upper caste Indians tortured the poor and the downtrodden. He realized and declared, till the lot of the downtrodden is not improved, till they are not educated and allowed to live a normal life, India cannot improve. And there is no hope for the country. He was so preoccupied with their problems that he declared that those well-placed Indians who do not try to improve the lots of the people who are not so advantageous as they are traitors to the nation. He himself declared, and I quote, "Who cares for your bhakti and mukti? I will go to hell cheerfully 1,000 times if I can rouse my countrymen immersed in tamas and make them stand on their feet," unquote. So when he heard of this parliament of religion, he wanted to go there for the twin purposes of purging Hindu religion of its dross and proclaim to the whole world its pristine essence of humanism, so that the lot of his countrymen whose life forces religion can be improved, and they can realize the meaning of life. And India, which has gone into a shell as the oyster does, and is suffering like a frog in the well, can be extricated from this miserable position, and the nation can be reborn. At that time in America, anti-slavery movement gained the momentum with the publication in 1831 of William Lloyd Garrison's newspaper, Liberator. Books such as Uncle Tom's Cabin stimulated anti-slavery movement in the North. That book supported civil war and was acknowledged by Abraham Lincoln for doing the same. On the spiritual side, thoughts of Emerson and Thoreau gave America some respite in the morbid haste which often developed into the frantic rhythm of modern civilization. The chase after materialistic prize was discouraged by both these thinkers, and Whitman's Leaves of Grass as a collection of poems mirrored the mood of the time. Leaves of Grass is very aptly described as a mixture of Bhagavad Gita and the New York Herald. The Parliament of Religion was therefore a perfect meeting ground for Swami Vivekananda, who was carrying with him the Catholic teachings of Upanishad and the Gita with a heart which was bleeding at the miseries of his countrymen, whose sectarian minds are too clouded by illiteracy and superstition for these holistic teachings to penetrate. And with the divine help, he was carrying a mission to a global platform in a land which was vocal about abolition of slavery and was slowly coming to terms with values of mental emancipation. What Swamiji said at this parliament is known to us, but the impact is something which is wholly unexpected. Hearing his address, he was called a cyclonic Hindu. Neither before nor after him, any uninvited, unknown speaker in a parliament of world-famous scholars succeeded in single-handedly changing the course of the entire discourse in the parliament. The quality which was most resplendent in his address was the clarity of his thought and the fearlessness in his approach, and that too coming from a person who hails from the land of the natives. So fearlessly did he castigate sectarianism, fanaticism, religious bigotry and violence that it stunned the whole world. After hearing Swamiji, the Western world started respecting Indian culture and our superior spiritual strength. His speech created such an impact in America that the requests of his students and admirers had to stay back in America for 4 years to deliver hundreds of lectures throughout America to explain the essence of Hindu philosophy, to awaken the spiritual consciousness in the modern world. He was rightly called by A.L. Basham, the great historian, the Swami Vivekananda will be remembered as the molder of the modern world. Swamiji believed the Renaissance preceded revolution. By Renaissance, he meant spiritual awakening. But the dynamism of his speech was such as he could combine both Renaissance and revolution practically in one go. What he addressed was not religion only, but spirituality. That is why he could cut across the barriers of nationality and the boundaries of religion to reach every receptive mind on the values of life and living. Here what was said by the Jesuit priest Martin is very pertinent, and I quote, "It was not so much what Swamiji said, it was the way he made it fit so remarkably well with the journey of science and humanism towards a new idea of material perfection. For he supplied the notion that what mattered was not religion in general, or any religion in particular, but spirit. Its appeal was that he harped on the dignity of man, the privileged power of his reason, and it placed total trust only on human nature, so that if any person were free from the tankering and tampering by organized religion, could achieve his own happiness. This explains why Swamiji believed that every soul is potentially divine. Soul is always equated with spirituality. The editorial comment Back home, his address had a tremendous impact on Indians. The editorial comment on 1st September 1894, which came out in Amrita Bazar Patrika, then the leading daily, correctly summed up the situation. I quote from the editorial comment. He has done much more to elevate our nation in the estimation of the people of the West than what has hitherto been done by all our political leaders put together. His speech actually initiated the fight for national freedom. Dr. Ramesh Chandra Majumdar, the famous historian, said, and I quote, Swami Vivekananda will be called the father of modern Indian nationalism. He largely created it and also embodied in his own life its highest and noblest elements. Bipin Chandra Pal, the famous orator and a national participant in our freedom, said, and I quote, this new nationalist movement in India is essentially a spiritual movement. He is the first to inculcate the fire of patriotism amongst Indians. The famous revolutionary Hemchandra Ghosh said, and I quote, Swami Vivekananda appeared to be more a political prophet than a religious teacher. So it is not a matter of coincidence that in the search of the belongings of every revolutionary in British India, police recovered Swamiji's speeches and works, and his life was also established. During his life was also established the first revolutionary center in the name of Anushiran Samiti on 24th March 1902. And his favorite disciple, Sister Nivedita, used to frequent this center. Swamiji himself said, and I quote his own words, the country has become a powder magazine. A little spark might ignite it. I will see revolution in my lifetime, unquote. It is said of Swamiji that Vivekananda did not die in 1902. He lived till 1946. His ideas, his sadhana flowed in different channels to enrich and vitalize the nation and entitled it to win the first round, with Gandhi and Bose closes the epoch which he had opened. A new chapter has begun. The future will show whether his soul has died or it reincarnates to spiritualize the nation, to judge it to the conquest of mankind. This was written by Achindranath Bose in his studies on Bengal Renaissance. But in my view, till today, the poor people of India are living under extreme misery. Things have not changed much. Swamiji visualized that India will, and I again quote him, arise out of the patient's cottage, grasping the plough, out of the huts of the fisherman, the cobbler and the sweeper. He wanted, let her spring from the grocer's shop, from beside the oven of the fritter seller. Let her emanate from the factory, from marts and from markets. I think his soul will live and will work and will not rest till India of his dream dawns on the horizon. Long live Swamiji.